Back-to-back shutouts, baby. The Marlins win 2 on the spin and take their first series on the road in 2024. Their second series in 2024. DJ, spin them bottle caps, baby. This is Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This is your daily Marlins pod. I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up on X or Twitter at MiamiMarlins_UK. If you are listening to the pod, firstly, greetings and welcome to the show. This is your team every day, and thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Make sure you hit subscribe wherever you get your pods. There is also a YouTube channel, of course. Join me on the YouTube channel. Join me in the comments as well after every single episode. This episode specifically is sponsored by our good friends over at eBay Motors. And from brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. What isn't only available to U.S. customers is the ability to watch the Marlins take the series. And they take it in a style that has not been seen for many years for the Marlins. A series where they end up taking game 2 and 3 with back-to-back shutouts. Incredible work for the Fish. Incredible work for the pitching staff, no doubt about it. Trevor Rogers had the ball in Wednesday's game, and that was off the back of Ryan Weathers with a career day for Ryan Weathers. Sensational stuff from him, no doubt about it. So there's tons to get into here. This is all about the pitching. And look how different it feels for the Marlins as soon as we get the consistent starting pitching. Look how different it feels when you've got a bullpen that can hold a lead. And a cluster of guys that you can trust. Even if Trevor Rogers exits after throwing 5, you still have a pen that you can trust. With Cronin, with Fauché, with Nardi, with Scott, and AJ Puck sitting there ready to go if needed. This team's back, baby. It's a little bit too late for the season and, the postseason run, as Peter Bendix has already called out. It's unlikely the Marlins will make it. However, this is the Marlins baseball that we grew accustomed to in 2023. And I think, listen, the start of the year was a really challenging start. And we know that. And it's the primary thing you point to is just the rotation was decimated right before the start of the season. And everyone was just in a blind panic. Guys are getting back now. Guys are settling in. Things are settling down. And this is kind of more what we expected in general, I'd say. And I think the one thing to call out, and I want to talk about Weathers and Rogers specifically, but just more generally, they're the Marlins are on the road in Detroit. Detroit are they're in the mix in this AL Central. They're keen to win. Everyone's always keen to win. But what I would say is Skip has the guys going in a way where no one's checked. I mean, it's only mid-May. And so it would be an extremely terrible look if a team had fully checked out at this point. I get it at the back end of August and September, and you literally counted down the days, but not at this point. But with that being said, for me, one of the main takeaways is right now that the guys are in there. They're hunting, they're battling, they're scrapping, they're trying to get better. This is, the season isn't what we wanted it to be, but the guys are scrapping, which is great to see. Trevor Rogers in this UK-friendly evening game. So I'm recording this post-game, straight after the game. There'll be a postcast as well. You're going to be hit with multi-post-game episodes here. You're going to have the postcast with Greece and my episode dropping post-game as well. Why not? Lap it up, guys. You got all evening. Everyone based out over there in South Florida and beyond. So lap them up, of course. But Trevor Rogers going, and it was almost a stereotypical Rogers start. And what I mean by that is, what we've seen with Trevor is he generally starts okay. He has no run support, and then he has an inning where it just completely blows up. That inning did almost come. It didn't, and he wiggled out of a jam. The bases were juiced, but he gets out of it with a K, big changeup K, getting out of that jam. But boy, oh boy, that had a Trevor Rogers like hallmark situation written all over it. And maybe for Trevor, a little bit of luck. We saw like extreme frustration from Trevor Rogers today. We didn't see any of that today, but his last outing, like he was busting up anything that moved. I could just imagine, imagine if Avisel Garcia was sat on that bench in that game. Like Avi could have been decked by Trevor Rogers. The bubble gum holder was getting it. The water bottles, the cups, you name it. Trevor was just taking anything down in his sightlines. And like I said, if Avi would have been sat on the bench there, who knows how that would have ended up? Who knows? Luckily, it didn't lead to anything or escalate. But I've never seen Trevor Rogers as animated as that ever. And it's such a variance, right? Do you remember right at the start of the year when Trevor Rogers was on the broadcast, sounded cool as a cucumber? He'd had a couple of decent starts. No run support, really, other than that first game. But, the Marlins were struggling. But Trevor on the broadcast was just sounding so cool. I was thinking, Trevor Rogers has really stepped into more of a leader. He's a quiet guy anyway. You can sense that. But he stepped into that role. And then all of a sudden, we see him going completely bananas on the bench. Something we haven't seen since probably that Sandy situation a while ago where he just went to town on his glove, to be honest with you. One other thing, by the way, on Trevor Rogers that I have noticed but haven't mentioned on this pod specifically, and I just wanted to briefly call that out. Do you remember when Trevor Rogers used to have the yellow glove? He's gone away from the yellow glove. He's now flexed it. But I remember that yellow glove, it always used to look like he was holding a bunch of bananas when he was pitching. But he's flexed that away. When did that happen? Why is the glove changed? I don't know. But anyway, it's probably for the best if everyone thought it was a bunch of bananas. Nevertheless, Trevor, what am I talking about here? Anyway, Trevor escapes the jam, delivers a better performance. 5 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, and 6 Ks for Trevor Rogers. And that, he's not going deep into games. He only threw mid-80s in terms of pitches. And I think part of that is to kind of protect Trevor in some ways from himself. And also, it felt like today was like a little bit of a confidence booster where, you pull him at the right moment. There's a bit of like, as I was mentioned on yesterday's episode and the day before. For the Marlins' perspective, health is king for the arbitration guys. Like Peter Bendix is praying that everyone stays healthy, so it opens up all of the options for him. If Trevor goes down, that's another option that they can't explore at this point. And so Skip Schumacher managing Trevor, I think, well. Equally, considering the last outing, I think this is a good time to make that change, get him out of there. A scoreless day. The Marlins have got the lead. He's in line for his first win. He does get the win today, by the way. So now moves to 1-6. His ERA ticks under 6 now as well. So it's been a weird season for Trevor Rogers. At the start of the season, I thought, okay, there's going to be some progression. There's then been that element I talked about mentally and leadership-wise, where I was like, okay, Trevor's really stepping up and becoming a different type of guy in this clubhouse. Really encouraging. We then have some starts where it goes wonky quickly. The wheels fall off quickly. The frustration boils over. And now it's back to a reset and a restart and let's go. It's been so up and down for Trevor. And what I wanted to speak about a few days ago on the episode, but got sidetracked. I was probably having a rant about something else. But Trevor Rogers, what I was calling out was I did like pretty much a full episode on how Eddie Cabrera at this point should be seen as a relief pitcher, probably. Like considering the body of work with Eddie Cabrera and the history, you struggle to see how there's actually a big league starter in there. And with Trevor Rogers, the point I was looking to make was from 2021, but after that, the body of work again suggests or asks you the question of, is Trevor Rogers at this point a big league starter? I think he's answered me with aplomb today. I think Trevor Rogers is still in there saying, yes, I am a big league starter. I just want to mention briefly the Detroit Tigers. Then we're going to hit the first ad. And what I want to talk about with the Tigers is these guys, they're 500 club heading into today's game. Boy, oh boy, the Tigers look poor. I mean, they're a 500 club, and the offense in particular looked disgraceful, really. And like a lot of the Tigers fans, I got a few of them that I follow and, have enjoyed seeing their tweets through the last couple of games. Like, they're calling out too. They're a bit like scratching their heads going, what is this offense doing? How can this offense be shut down back-to-back days by Ryan Weathers and Trevor Rogers? They look at their ERAs and they're like, how is this happening? But the Tigers, apart from maybe in that ninth inning, barely put up a fight in any of the innings in the last two games. So I feel like 500, I mean, they tick under it now, one game under 500. But I think that probably flatters the Tigers, to be honest with you. Nevertheless, let's hit the first ad. And then I want to talk about Ryan Weathers, who's my ace. And I think could be the ace of staff on many clubs at this point. He's been an absolute stud, Ryan Weathers. Before we do that, it's time to let you know about our good friends over at eBay Motors. Yes, sir. We got the graphics pumped and passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Yes, you've got superchargers and the roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. And they have over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, guys, back here with me, Peter Pratt. On Wednesday, the 15th of May, the Marlins have won a series. They've won 2 games in a row. And during that time, the opposition scored a total of 0 runs, back-to-back shutouts. The first time, I believe, since 2019 that the Marlins have done that. 5 years since they've gone back-to-back shutouts. Trevor Rogers with a bit of bullpen love. And then yesterday was predominantly all about my man, Ryan Weathers. 1-0 to the Marlins. The Marlins have morphed into Arsenal of the 90s, perhaps. A lot of people maybe won't get that reference, but I don't care. To be fair, Olsen went blow for blow. I mean, for those that love low-scoring games that go quickly, this was the game for you. Olsen, 8 innings, 3 hits, no walks, 6 Ks. His ERA is down to just over 2. For Weathers, 8 innings as well, 3 hits as well, no walks, 4 Ks. His ERA down to 3.81. Weathers, I believe, now is the WAR leader for the Marlins, offense and defense. This is the WAR leader for the Marlins thus far. Is this a surprise? No, it's not, in my opinion. And with Ryan Weathers, we have to call this out that this is a Marlins special. It's the only way of describing it, where former top prospect, traded for, comes in, struggles, shows a flash of something at the back end of the season, has a full off season with the Marlins, with Mel. Then you get into the year. He's healthy. He's throwing gasolina. He's got control, durability, can strike out guys, rolls a lot of ground balls as well. Like that yesterday was the most Sandy-like outing we've seen since Sandy Alcantara. And frankly, that was as good, if not better, an outing that I've seen including any of Sandy's. I mean, yeah, we've seen complete game shutouts from Sandy, and of course, they kind of steal the limelight. But 8 innings, 3 hits, no walks, 4 Ks. I mean, super impressive from Ryan Weathers. Super impressive. The Marlins have done it again. They have done it again. Former top prospect, acquired for nothing. And now you've got this guy sitting there as a legitimate middle back end of the rotation arm for any organization at this point. Any. Okay, he may not be an ace for every organization, but for 15 of them, he absolutely is, at least, including the Marlins. But all jokes aside, Ryan Weathers has been just what the Marlins needed this year, by the way. And he is such a valuable asset. I spoke about how the Marlins fans and fan base generally way undervalues Braxton Garrett. And I think, I don't think Weathers he's not quite at that level from Braxton Garrett 2023 consistently. But if you can start getting Ryan Weathers going 6+ on a regular basis, then boy, oh boy, that is a super incredible asset for the Marlins. And listen, guys, the way this year's going to pan out, and maybe the next few years, is any time someone has an outing or does something that is impressive, there will always be this blowback of, trade value's up. You come away from that game from last night, all you see across Marlins Twitter, trade value's up. We should move Weathers, sell high. I mean, this is the really interesting thing, though. It's a super interesting thing because the Rays way is sell at peak value. And right now, Weathers, considering the amount of control at this point, it's unlikely you would ever move Ryan Weathers unless there was like a blow-away deal. Of course. But really, again, it's all about, I think, Peter Bendix and the Marlins organization and this new front office and Mel Stottlemyre being able to understand what is Ryan Weathers' like, where is his true current status? What's the ceiling? What's the floor? If things start to regress, what will that look like? Where is he in that scale? And you make decisions accordingly. I guess they'll be getting calls on Ryan Weathers. Why wouldn't they? If you're a different club and you're a different GM at this point, you should absolutely be making the call on Ryan Weathers. Maybe there isn't a Cy Young arm there, but it isn't all about Cy Young arms. We see it all the time where sub-4 ERA and 160 innings is super valuable. And that's where we're at with Ryan Weathers at this point. So I tip my cap to him. His career outing yesterday was stunning. It was Sandy Alcantara-like in many ways, very Sandy-like. If the question is how frequently do we see that? Granted, I've just slandered the Tigers' offense and said it was absolutely terrible. And that their offense does look, in the main, pretty poor and frustrating, I would say. Nevertheless, you still have to get the outs. To go 8 innings, 3 hits, no walks. It doesn't matter who you're facing at the big league level. Super impressive. So well done, Ryan Weathers. I want to talk about AJ Puk and Bryan De La Cruz shortly. Again, these guys making an impact on this series. But before we do that, let's let you know about our good friends over at PrizePicks. And PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. Of course, it's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You simply pick more or less than on 2 or more player stats and watch those winnings roll in, baby. Baseball season, of course, is underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond into your PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, did you have the over on the Marlins for first inning runs? 2 runs for the Marlins. Bryan De La Cruz. Take your pick of more or less than and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. And they have something for every sports fan. It's not just baseball, guys. They got basketball to the League of Legends and everything in between. You can pick LeBron, Ohtani, Connor McDavid, and Jude Bellingham all in the same entry. So Simply download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB. It's all lowercase, LOCKEDONMLB, for a first deposit match up to $100. Reminder, download the app. It's PrizePicks. Use the code. The code is LOCKEDONMLB. First deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, guys, back here with me, Peter Pratt, on Wednesday, the 15th of May. The sun starting to go down, as you can see. It's getting darker by the second in this room. I fear I haven't quite set my lighting up effectively. Those listening, don't care. Those watching, feels like it's getting darker. I don't know. Hopefully, it won't descend into full darkness. Nevertheless, let's talk about AJ Puk. He has returned straight back into the pen and making an immediate impact. A first save of the season for AJ Puk. Yesterday, he ended up having to work the 10th. Always tricky in the 10th where you've got that ghost runner on, right? And the Marlins are taking the lead. In the 10th, they've managed to scratch a run. It always feels like one run is par. That's the par score with the ghost runner with, no outs and a runner on second. One run is par. So anything under that, stunning. It's fine. You almost accept one. If teams, I feel like, play it right, manufacture runs in a way, it always feels like it's there to be done. So for AJ Puk to come in and get that save in that situation, super encouraging. Feels like to me, AJ Puk is probably just almost happy to be back there in the pen where there's probably a degree of comfort. He was clearly pushed into outside of his comfort zone by being a starter. I think, he embraced it in spring. We saw really encouraging spring numbers. But the big lights and the big game and etc. all happened, and all of a sudden it looked like it mentally fell apart for Puk as a starter. I get why the Marlins made the move. And let me just call out why they made the move. The reason they're thinking about this is they have to look at one eye to the future, one eye to the present. This is the mantra, which means we're going to move some guys. And the thing is, if you're going to move some guys, the reality is the majority of the Marlins' talent sits in the rotation. It's the pitchers that have the value in the main for this organization. Obviously, Luis Arias is already gone. From the offensive side, there's limited amounts of assets beyond Jazz Chisholm Jr., in my opinion. The pitching side's a different scenario. They want to get Puk. Can he transition to a starter? If he can, what does that mean for what other decisions can be made? If you can move Puk, plus you've still got Braxy Garrett, plus you've got Ryan Weathers that we've talked about, plus you've got Standy and Yuri coming back, and Max Meyer in the pen. In the chamber, ready to rock and roll when he's ready, if he's ever ready. It allows you to then consider moving Jesus Luzardo. It allows you to move Trevor Rogers. It allows you to move Eddie Cabrera. It allows you to move, heaven forbid, Sixto Sanchez, whatever that return may look like. But AJ Puk, by trying him as a starter and seeing if he could make it work, freed up maybe Peter Bendix to make those decisions. It hasn't worked. It's fine. And his value is still there as a reliever. I'm interested to see what they do with Puk. Tanner Scott, we know, will be moved at some point. Whether it's sooner or later, who knows? Frankly, with AJ Puk, he does have multiple years of control, more than Tanner Scott, clearly. For the Marlins, there's no reason why they couldn't just follow the same pathway that they have with Scott. Scott's moved. Puk steps up into that role. A lefty arm that, when we saw Puk at the start of his Marlins career, we were all like, this dude is incredible. This is what we've been missing for years. Can he get back to that form? If he can, then the Marlins again have another asset. I know JJ Bleday's tearing up now for the A's, but frankly, at the time, it was the right move for the right player, and actually he delivered in many ways. AJ Puk and his Marlins career, I'm very intrigued to see the way it plays out. But Puk back in the pen, it looks like he feels familiar. It looks like the confidence is back. And he can just get out there and he can throw the fastball and the sweeper. And he knows it's effective. He knows he can do it. I know there was a blip at the second half, but, very interested to track AJ Puk's performance the rest of the way. In terms of the offensive guys, obviously, the Marlins only managed to scratch one run yesterday, which was enough. and then 2 runs today. Those came in the first inning. They only had 4 hits total today, the Marlins, which, okay, in the main, generally 4 hits is usually not enough. So they kind of got lucky here. Jazz with a hit, Bryan De La Cruz with a hit, a big one, a 2-run blast, Jake Burger getting a knock, and Nick Fortes. So to be fair, Burger and Fortes, both of them desperate need of some knocks, and they both get 1 apiece, which was great. Jazz, a hit and a walk. Also looked to be struggling with his knee, which at one point looked a big concern with Jazz Chisholm Jr. I was thinking, man, oh man, come on, not now. Not now. We can't have this. Looked like it maybe started from a reach to first base when he was like beating out the throw, which he did. And then the next time he actually had to try to put a spring in his step, it's like, ooh, knees not feeling it. Anyway, stayed in the game. Great to see. Day off tomorrow. Probably well-timed for Jazz, to be honest with you. But Bryan De La Cruz, the pitch itself was similar to that pitch in some ways that Nick Castellanos absolutely demolished the other day. Bryan De La Cruz torched this one. And man, oh man, Comerica is massive, the center field. I was like, how, as that was hit, I thought, that's a no-doubter. I could, like, a bit like Castellanos the other day, I was like, man, that's gone. Like, you can just tell. And De La Cruz, I was like, man, that's gone. And I was like, watching it thinking, center fielder still thinks he can get this. And then it only just like wall scraped over. So, man, it is a massive hit out there into center field. But Bryan De La Cruz, another bomb. Another bomb for De La Cruz. He's now OPSing at 760. Pacing the club now. And he's playing right field today as well, by the way. Jesus Sanchez was DHing, which was interesting. It's normally been the other way around. So, interesting wrinkle there. De La Cruz out and right. Didn't really have to do a ton, which was, again, encouraging. But De La Cruz has been the main spark plug for this offense. And it's been from a power output perspective. It felt like De La Cruz has always kind of had this in him, but it feels like his game has changed. And we saw this in spring. If you think back to that game 1 in spring, where all of a sudden De La Cruz's exit velos were like career highs. The first two of his 3 batted ball hits. I haven't described that very well. The first two of 3 batted ball events were like career high exit velos. Everyone was like, whoa, okay, is this real? And then it kind of like calmed down a bit. But clearly for De La Cruz, this is something that he's been building up to. We saw it in spring, and it looks like he's been able to carry it over into the year. The funny thing is, again, De La Cruz hits his home run today, and everyone's like, uh-oh, trade value's up. And that's what's going to happen for every Marlins player. But fair play to Bryan De La Cruz. He has been able to, historically with De La Cruz, it has been a very obvious hot streak and then some very long cold streaks. I feel like with De La Cruz, whilst he was hot, then had a minor cooling, but he's elongated this hot streak in some ways. He's carrying this on and getting to a situation where it isn't just a spike of hot and then a lot of cold. It's balancing from De La Cruz, which is encouraging. The power's there. We saw it in spring. De La Cruz really becoming, one of the main Marlins offensive guys at this point. The funny thing is when I watch Jazz, like I'm watching him closely today, Jazz were taking some big cuts today, by the way. Like there was a few, maybe a second and third at bat. Like Jazz, I think, was in full go mode at some point. And you can tell towards maybe his third, fourth at bat, there was definitely a sense of them pitching, away to Jazz, like just thinking, you can see where his head's at. And it's like, let's stay away from that. De La Cruz, I don't think is quite getting that respect at this point. I'm not seeing, that approach to De La Cruz from the pitchers where I still feel like they're comfortable to go in and attack De La Cruz. But De La Cruz doing his thing. To be fair, though, you throw a meatball, like they should get destroyed. And De La Cruz absolutely destroyed one today, which is great. We're at the 30-minute mark, so I'm going to call it a day. You've got this episode. You'll likely have a postcast dropping in a similar time. So probably an hour's worth of Locked On Marlins content for you guys. Fundamentally, the DJ has spun those bottle caps on back-to-back days. The Marlins have had 2 shutouts in a row. Is that because of the Tigers or the Marlins pitching? I want to say it's all about the Marlins pitching. Ryan Weathers with his best and one of the best Sandy Alcantara impressions anyone has ever served up. He's a leader, no doubt. He's the war leader. And by that, he's the ace of this staff right now. Ryan Weathers, who saw it coming? Everyone did. Another Marlins special, no doubt. Trevor Rogers, question marks over whether he is even a starter at this point. Skip Schumacher managing Trevor Rogers perfectly today, in my opinion. Trevor Rogers avoided the Trevor Rogers inning. So critical. Confidence boost for him. Look forward to seeing him out there next time. AJ Puck back. Surprise, surprise. Puck back. What's the correlation? All of a sudden, the Marlins pen can hold leads, can pitch in tight games. The pen feels miles different with Puck in there. Scott, Puck, Fauché, Cronin, Birch, Nardi. Probably missed 1 or 2, but they're all dogs. And De La Cruz is an absolute offensive dog, no doubt about it. Guys, that's been Locked On Marlins for Wednesday, the 15th of May. I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow on an off day. As we carry on the conversation here. Look forward to seeing you then.